Okay, so just want to reintroduce as we go into the part two segment of this conversation, Valerie Dow, who's to my left, and just to remind you of who she is, that she has a BA in Health and Human Services, that she's also a certified community worker, and we work together with the Cincinnati Human Relations Commission as community outreach advocates. Also, Valerie she sits on the Consumer Advisory Board. She's actually the co-chair of the National Health Care of the Homeless. And to my right, we have Mr. Britton Carter, who is a CDCA as well as a CPS addictions therapist at UMADOC. And I want to welcome you guys and on the continuation of this conversation.
Thank you.
All right. So when we were left off before the break, we were talking about the heroin addiction and identifying and some things that we can do to try to work it through. And if you don't mind, Valerie, I want to start with Britton and talk about, you have a play. It's not a musical, so we're going to say a stage drama production around addiction.
Right.
Or you say what it is. You know better.
Well, actually, the name of the play is entitled The Miracle. And the play is actually centered around addiction and all the things that go on in the streets, crime. What it does is we tell the story of 6 individuals who are on their way to prison for the first time. And when they're on that bus, they have so many thoughts going through their minds. What we try to highlight is what happens to them on the way to prison, once they get in prison, and more importantly, what happens to the women that are involved in their lives, mothers, aunts, sisters, because men are the vessels, and women are completely devastated when they lose the male figure in the home. They lose the provider, they lose the protector. So I like to highlight that and show all phases of that. So the play is entitled The Miracle. It's a rags to riches story, or rags to riches. And actually it's excerpts from my own personal experience. Most writers tend to write from their own personal experience, their alter egos, if you will. And I've had some experiences in my past, and it led me to write this play. Actually, to be honest with you, I wrote the play while I was in prison. And many of the events that are taking place today, I wrote about some 7 years ago in prison. And today they're coming into fruition. I wrote about the unrest that we have in our communities, not only with the drug epidemic, but with the police and the violence that's going on in our communities. Actually, I wrote a scene in the play, and it unfolded some 6 or 7 years later. So I show this all on the stage, and it's great, and I do sing a little bit. So
Told you.
I think I can hold 1 or 2 bars for a minute. And so basically, what I wanted to do with this play was to lend a voice to those that are still incarcerated. I never forget those brothers that are incarcerated, whether they're black or white. Once you're incarcerated, we all share a common bond. We share misery, on many different levels. And so I wanted to continue to have a voice for those that are voiceless, those that have, and speaking of the voiceless, it also lends recognition to those mothers who have endured their sons or their daughters losing their lives to senseless crimes, murder victims, and that type of thing. So I wanted to cover it all. One of the persons that's in conjunction with me is Mazan, and she has the Limb Project, and she lost her son.
What is the Limb Project?
The Limb Project.
Limb or Lynn?
Limb, L-E-M.
Okay.
And it stands for Living Every Moment. So she's also my co-producer. And what we had done with the play, we expounded on the play, and we wanted to really reach out to these mothers who have lost their children to senseless murders and homicides in our city and around the world, actually. Any child that's loses their life to senseless murders, whether he's in Ohio, whether he's in Idaho, whether he's in Missouri or Michigan. It should be of concern to all of us. So this is what I wanted to do with the play. I wanted to have it be that voice, that vehicle, that soapbox, if you will, where for no one else, if I just stand up on the stage and scream out that we can't take it anymore, we don't need to take this anymore, that's what this play does. It screams out for those that are voiceless.
Okay, all right, thank you. And do you have a showtime coming up anytime soon? Or?
Yeah, actually, we are targeting February, early February. We haven't pinpointed the exact day in February, but we are going to be showing the play again in February. The location right now, we're working on the airing off. So just stay tuned. I'm quite sure that you'll have the information since you're in it. Actually, yeah, that singing part. Remember? Now this is the singer. Yeah, so in February, in mid-February, we should display the play. And it'll be at the airing off. So
okay, so we'll say everything is to be announced, but definitely once we get that information, we'll let you know. Because it should be something good for the whole family.
Right.
It's not Disney.
No.
But
No.
there's some things that we need for the family to get that's not Disney.
Right.
That's not just rose-colored glasses. Sometimes
Exactly.
it's good to bring. I mean, obviously you don't want to bring a 3-year-old, but it's something that, when you have teenagers, they really need to know what's going on.
Right.
So Valerie, we were talking about this epidemic or the drug situation. As a community health worker, how are you involved in that? Oh, actually, before we do that, one thing you mentioned in the other segment was about this clinic. Is it a clinic that's on McMicken?
Yes, it's 40 East McMicken. Okay. It's called McMicken Integrated Care Clinic.
Now, you mentioned that if someone was homeless, they could go there, whether they had any health insurance or not. Is it just for homeless, or can anyone go there?
Well, it's for homeless or anyone that is re-entering back into society.
What
per
is
se.
re-entry?
Re-entering.
They're coming back from space.
They're coming back from prison or jail, or a treatment facility, and they may have medication that they need, blood pressure, might be a diabetic or mental health medication, and at that time they may not have the insurance or the ability to pay for it. And so you would go there and you would see a doctor, and from there you would get your medicine free of cost.
Now, I always knew whether it was prison or jail, prison being someplace upstate, so that people kind of understand the difference. And, well, jail is jail.
Yes.
But still, prison being somewhere upstate versus the Justice Center, which you're still locked up and your rights taken away from you, so stay away from either one.
Right.
But I didn't realize that coming out of a drug treatment was considered reentry as well. Is that if it's a drug treatment that's enforced by the court, or if it's a voluntary drug treatment that you go into, is still considered reentry?
I look at reentry, and this is me personally, anything that removes me from my normal activity. If I can't get up and go to the refrigerator when I want to, if I have to put my hand up to get permission, yeah, I'm coming back into something.
Into society.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So in looking at people coming back into or reentering, what type of services or what type of work do you do with them as they're reentering into society?
I do what community health workers do. We just try to make sure the individual basic needs are met. Once we make sure you have medical coverage, food stamps, a lot of people are coming home or from jail or even treatment without anywhere to go. This is the time that we refer people to shelters. Housing is a whole nother issue. That's something different. But a lot of people come home and say, I want my own. I want an apartment. And it's not that simple. And it's not about your criminal background, it's about, do you have income?
Income, yeah.
Yes.
Definitely. But not to dismiss that if you are coming with a criminal background or you have a record, I hate using the phrase criminal, and I guess it is the same,
Well,
but I just want to use if you have a record.
Okay.
And as opposed to the criminal background. So if you have a record, certain places, and there's an income issue, you know, a lot of times if the rent is $700 and you get paid $700, most people aren't saying, okay, we need to do a background check. You know, they may do a credit check, but they're not saying we need you to go down and get a police report, right? But if you're in that situation where you can't make that type of market rent, that if you do have a record, or if you have drugs involved, that can stop you. And I know from a pastor standpoint, and I try to direct people often to get into housing. And one of the things of the different people that I may call, one of the first questions they ask, even before they ask about money, before they ask about their income, they want to know, do they have a record, and are they actively involved in drugs?
Right.
You know, and then the money. You would think money would be the first, but because for some, even if they have money, they're like, wait a minute, they have a record, they have, they're actively involved in drugs, it'll keep them away. So I just wanted to jump on that, just kind of to get in there. And I think people need to understand, and I especially think our young people need to understand that some of the things that we do in the street, or you call yourself getting out there and, you know, I'm going to do me, some of the things when you're doing me will affect you in ways that you really don't think about. And one of those things are housing. When it comes time to leave mom and dad, or mom or dad's home, and you need to get a house, or you need to get somewhere to live, people are going to dig into some things about you that you may not even think about. You know, I'm just out doing my thing. So what, I got caught with shoplifting. So what, I got this. Those are things that can really affect you. And that's really important that our young people understand it. I may have gotten off on a tantrum, so let me bring myself in.
And no, and you're absolutely right, you know, and deservingly so. We need to get off on a tangent because we're discriminated against, and I say not just people of color, but we're discriminated against those of us that have criminal backgrounds. You know, we're usually the first to be discriminated against. Pure and simple. So much so, not only in housing, but when you talk about reentry. You know, for instance, it would be ideal for a person to leave prison and want to pursue an education. So you would think, so he could better himself, so he could find a new vocation and move on in life, so he can be a productive member of the community. I want the guy that's living next door to my mom to be a guy that came out with fresh ideas, new ideas, healthy ideas, and wanted to pursue a normal and a legal course of enterprise. This happened to me. I was told that I couldn't enter into the University of Cincinnati. I applied for school here. Maybe I should say a local college. Yes. And so I applied to a local university. Too late. And I was rejected based on my criminal background. You know, so when we start to look in people's criminal backgrounds, you know, we got to keep in mind that what you did yesterday could stop you from doing what you need to do today. Although the federal government is saying that they shouldn't hold, you know, your criminal background against you, but we got to keep this thing real. You know, oftentimes it's going to be held against you, and that's one of the sad parts about the reentry piece. You know, when you're looking for housing, when you're looking to go on to school, to better yourself. You know, oftentimes our passes rear their ugly heads and they haunt us. And it's more prevalent in the black community than it is in any other community. You know, blacks are usually held at a different standard. You know, so the other community that had prison, drug addiction, those types of things, a little money may get him into an apartment or her. Whereas Leroy is not going to be able to get in there because of his criminal past, because it's as if the lights are shined a little bit brighter on our community as opposed to the other communities. And that's what's so devastating to us when we're trying to make this transition back into the community. You know, your hopes are killed. You know, you have hopes, dreams, and desires to come out and do something different. And when you're denied these opportunities, you know, based on a political agenda or just perceptions, you know, then that leads us to wander around our communities aimlessly, and they have no other choice but to go back to what's comfortable. Now they're going back.
I disagree with that because I don't think it's a choice. I think it's up to each individual because
Right.
I got a criminal background as
Right.
well. And I remember when I got out of treatment for the first time. Because, see, I don't know what it is to relapse. I know what it is to say, I'm done and I'm done. And I'm coming up on 17 years in December. So when I came out of treatment, I went right back into the same environment I used in.
Right.
I still had to go in and out of the same building, stepping over people because they were using. Excuse me, pardon me, can I get through? That was the norm for like 3 years for me. But I knew I was done. I knew I was done.
And
Finding employment, no, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. But I didn't give up on me.
Absolutely,
Yes.
and I commend you, and I know your story so well, and you're a very special person. You really are. You know, you're special because you persevered and you continue to try, as well as myself. You know, I had roadblocks. I didn't stop at the first no.
That's right.
I continued to absorb the no's. But I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the fact that when we talk about recovery, you know, we talk about recovering from various things. And you spoke about recovering from the drug addiction. You know, well, there's some other variables that go into that you have to recover from.
You have to recover, you know, and people, not to cut you off, but people don't understand sometimes there's a recovery even from the selling.
There's a recovery
from the dealing of the drug.
Right.
There's recovery.
Standing
There's
on the corner.
Look, and lately here, I've come to believe there's some recovery from the recovery.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, seriously, because you know you have.
Yes.
How can I turn this? You have a weight of the world on your shoulders once you start recovering. It's a lonely place. It's a lonely place. Everything that you knew about, everything that was familiar with you, all of a sudden you're in a line that's very limited, very limited. But recovery is possible, and that's what they say in our literature. Recovery is possible with some work. So no, don't give up on the first no. What I'm suggesting is that, you know, for most of the addicts who are suffering from this new age heroin, who are suffering from crack addiction, alcoholism, you know, those types of things thrown on top of the mental illness, a no is devastating.
Yes.
You know, if you tell me I can't come here, for instance, coming to get treatment, if you tell me that I can't get assisted medication, you know, so, in many places you have methadone, you have Suboxone in some places, and the first thing that they want is some relief. They want relief from what's ailing them. And when you're rejected, when you're told no, based on the fact that you don't have insurance, based on the fact that it's not enough room, you know, those types of things, based on the fact that you are either a veteran or a non-veteran. I worked in a veteran rehabilitation center when I first entered into the field, the Joseph House. And it was a great place to start out my career. And what I discovered is that there's a disparity among the Caucasian soldier and the black soldier and who receives treatment and who doesn't receive treatment. And the numbers are very high on the white end. You know,
This is drug treatment?
This is treatment. This is treatment. So what I'm saying is that there needs to be a reevaluation of how we process, how we help our patients coming in from prison to re-enter back into society. And I think it starts at the prison door. I think it starts at the jail door. I think it starts at when we're talking about the community-based treatment facilities, those types of places. We need to start there. And once we start there, then we can give everybody an equal playing ground and a better chance for success.
But do you ever feel it will ever be equal?
Well,
The playing ground is never going to be equal for us.
well, I don't think that that it would be equal here anytime too soon, depending on who enters office. But Ray, I think that we have a great deal of hope as a people. I think that we have opportunities. We have, and you said it yourself. And there's a lot of Valerie Dow's out there. There's a lot of Britton Carters out there. What we have to do is we have to make the door open. We have to make it available for those Valeries and those Brittons to step through the door so there'd be more of us, that enter through that door.
So let's talk about this before we run out of time. I want to make sure we get this. So since you brought up reentry, and that seems to be the road that we decided to drive down, which is pretty good because the reentry is talking about the recovery. I have a family member on the way home. I know they're going to be home. I don't know, next month. I don't know, whatever. And so, what are the steps that need to be done for the family to help prepare for the reentry? Because I would assume that a support base is going to make a bigger difference than someone without a support base. Not saying you can't survive without one, but I would think that a support base would make a big difference. So what should someone on the outside be getting prepared for as they're waiting for their loved one to reenter back into society?
Well, for us here at UMADOT, what we do, we go into the prisons long before the release of the inmate or the incarcerated person. We have programs that are geared towards children of incarcerated families and that type of thing. So what we do is we kind of help navigate for them, a better transition through the prison system. So we start early.
And so the family can reach out.
We start early. The family can reach out to us. As a matter of fact, we insist. It's a hand-in-hand program. We have a program that's called CFRO, and that's Circle for Reentry of Ohio. And what we do, we're in the prisons, we're entrenched in the prisons, so we want to help connect you with your family. Now, part of the problem is not only once they get out in society that they feel alienated, they begin to feel alienated amongst their own family members because you're not the same person that they remember. Or if they do remember that person, they're expecting that person to come out, which can sometimes be a deterrent for that guy to succeed or that woman. So what we want to do is we want to bridge the gap. We want to reintroduce the family to this incarcerated person that's on his way out of prison. We want to try to help open the doors that need to be open, whether it's food stamps, whether it's housing, whether it's medical, whether it's insurance, no matter what, education, no matter what it is, whether it's counseling, family counseling, to get to the root of the issue as to why little Billy did this, why he did that, what's going on, what did we do? So we want to address the whole gambit. We just don't want to let this guy out and say, hey, we called your mom for you. That's not good enough. We want to bring mom. We want to meet with mom in the prison. We want to sit down, we want to have a family counseling session, and we want to guide the family, inmate and family, back together and back into a healthy society.
Okay, great. So families can reach out, and that's good. So they can say, hey, I have a family member that's going to be released in a month or 2 months or whatever.
Absolutely.
And so what can we do? So once they reach out and now the family member is out, they're home again.
Right.
What are some of the steps that you think, based on your experience in working with individuals, that needs to take place between family and this individual that are home? What should they do to navigate through this reentry?
I think one of the good things is what CFRO is doing. And what they're doing, they're engaging individuals before they come home.
Exactly.
So this way, It's something like a mentor that they'll have in place when they come home to walk them through the process. As I'm beginning to see the reentry piece, that is really what's needed.
Right.
That mentor needs to be there. Because some people are coming home and they got family members still doing what they always done.
That's right.
And they need somebody. They need to be able to call somebody, say, hey, I'm not trying to do this today. What is it that I need to do? What can I put in place? And I think it just needs to be more mentors.
Right.
Because it's too many coming home who done did 10, 15 years.
And on top of the mentoring piece, you know, we have what's called recovery coaches.
Yeah.
And that's big. You know, recovery coaches is extremely big, because what a recovery coach consists of, he or she is a person that has had the same set of circumstances that you have had, that have found a way out, and that's willing to navigate you through that maze and show you the way out. So it's really big, and they can contact us at Humidot, and we have a magazine. So, you know, I have to promote this real quick. Humidot, pick up our magazine, read about us, come by and see us.
All right, great. Listen, excuse me. It's been great talking with the two of you. Definitely, we did not even, I don't think, skim the top of the things that we needed to talk about.
Absolutely.
So we're going to definitely have you out. But I want to make sure before we close out that I get some information out. Open enrollment for healthcare 2016 starts November 1st. That's when the marketplace insurance. If you need to get marketplace insurance, November 1st is when it starts, and it runs through January 31st of 2017. Look, if you don't have insurance or you missed it the last time, we know you're going to be looking at a fine coming up this year, and I don't remember, but I think it's like $600 and something that you will be assessed to your taxes. No need of spending that money, which will, I believe, be higher this coming year. So starting November 1st, between that and January 31st, make sure that you get with an assistant. You can go to you can go to www.healthcare.gov. There are sisters in the city. You want to reach out, you can go online. They can, if you go to www.healthcare.gov or you call them, they can deal with languages, I think up to 137, maybe 140 different languages. It's important that you do that. Remember, Medicaid is open all year round. In fact, there is no open enrollment or closed enrollment for Medicaid. You can enroll for Medicaid all year round. So if you don't have health care right now, there's no reason for you not to go. And if you need a reason and you need marketplace insurance, unless you've got money to throw away and you can just give that to me instead of throwing it away, you need to enroll for health care. I want to mention a couple other things. There is an Over the Rhine, a Day of Hope, which is a community conversation. I am my brother's keeper, addressing crime in the community. I don't know if we can get that on there or not, but you can reach us and get that information. Also coming up is Unity in the Community, a resource fair that will be Friday, October 28th from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., which will be held Reading Road and Rockdale Avenue. And if it's raining on that particular day, this is actually going to be an outdoor resource fair, but if it happens to be raining that day, it will be held indoors at South Avondale Elementary School, which I don't have the address for there. Unfortunately, it's not on here, but you can definitely find that out. And also, Women of Over the Rhine, it's a support group that meets on Thursdays, 11 a.m. to noon. Strong women lifting each other up. And I think that's very important. If you're in that, if you need support, I don't know what all is support for, but whatever it is, get with your sister girls, as I hear people say. Maybe I used the wrong word, I don't know. But to be able to sit down and talk. And men, if you have some issues you need to deal with, find a men's support group. Sit down and talk to someone. Don't just let it go. I could go on and on about this, and if I don't stop, I will. So let's just say we thank you very much again for tuning into our show, Your Health and Faith Community. Again, I'm Pastor Jackie Jackson, your host. I want to say thank you to our producer, Anita Alexander, as well, who's been doing a great job, even when it was Get Covered Ohio, and now with our new venture.